Get 35% off your first preferred set, plus the free
No slots available. So stay with yours.
It's not about making sure people have TikTok. Have TikTok. We just don't want the PRC, the Chinese Communist Party.
All right, there we go. Hey, if you're on, you go ahead and mute yourself to make sure we're gonna have lots of noise on here because we're actually on the rig floor right now. I'm Peter Snell. I'm the CEO of PetroVybe. You're at Virtual Rig Day. We're super excited to have y'all. We are live streaming on 7 social platforms. Several of you have several of you are on actually on the Zoom also. So we're glad to have all y'all here. And I know that season 1 of Landman is over, and but PetroVybe is still working, and you're going to see how it actually happens. It's actually some, aside from all the shenanigans and ridiculous behavior that makes my stomach turn. Not that I'm a perfect person, but there's some really good content in there about how oil and gas fits into the market landscape. Over 6,000 products are made possible every day by petroleum products. Without oil and gas, those things, our world would cease to operate. So really important commodity that we've got going on here. Today we're gonna dig into kind of behind the rig, how things actually work out there. So if you're watching Landman, some of that stuff's pretty good, particularly the last few episodes around actual Landman activity. Some of the rig stuff is good. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Get some of these people again. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. Hey, if you're coming on, everybody make sure you're muted, and so we can have all the noise in the rig to look at. So you just joining us, we just kind of covered the little bit of differences between the show Landman and what's actually going on in the oil and gas business. So I'm gonna flip the screen around now. We'll get to it. So I'm actually up here, right here, looking at the rig drilling. We're on the rig floor up here, elevated, and we need to get the recording going. Yeah, we're directly up here. You guys got to see we're up 2-3 stories, and the rig's turning right now. So I'm actually gonna introduce you guys to JD. JD's up here working the floor. He's in charge up here. Got our control center up here. We're getting pretty close to having a pipe change out, right, JD? You want to tell us what's going on?
Drilling down right now, see if we get down to this yellow mark. Make a connection. Make up all these joint in the mouth hole. Continue our drilling process.
Awesome. So, JD, where are you from, JD? Carthage, Texas. How long you been doing this?
28, 30 years.
30 years. All right. Well, very good. So, look, I think we're gonna. How many minutes before it's gonna be chased out?
About 5 to 10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes. Okay. So, we'll kind of stick around. JD, can you tell us what's going on over here?
Right here, the hands down there mix the chemicals. Put the chemicals into the mud, get the mud properly dry for the drilling process.
Awesome. So basically, there's a whole bunch of mud that gets pumped into the drill bit. So if you think about what's actually happening right here, you guys know when you drill a piece of wood with a drill, just a hand drill, you get cuttings that come out. Those cuttings that come out they have to go somewhere. You got to have a whole engineering mechanism to get those out. And we use mud, basically a muddy water, right, JD? A muddy water that helps pump that out so that you get the cuttings out. We use those cuttings to actually sample. Use the cuttings to what do you kind of
Let's get rid of the cut. They go over the second street down there.
So there's a reserve pit back behind me, guys, or in front of me, I should say. That's where the cuttings go. It's just mud, basically. That comes out. So think of those shavings from your wood when you're drilling a piece of wood. You kind of brush it off. You have to have a big pit next to the drill or next to the well in order to do that. So one of the things that we have, guys, is a mud logger. I'm going to step back because I want to stay up here in the doghouse. Hey, JD, thanks, bro. Appreciate you. One of the things that's real important, we're actually in the doghouse right now. What is the doghouse? This is where basically we come up. It's like a big trailer that sits at the top of the rig floor. And what we do up here, this is where the guys hang out. Basically a control center. It's warm in here. These guys work 24/7. So what they're doing is it's just a lot of work going on. So a lot of transition back and forth. I'll show. Let's flip this around. They're about to change out. That's what that light means. So I'll come back to more about the doghouse, but you can see the well, or excuse me, the pipe. It's getting close to the end. What that means is they're about to change out the pipe. So we're going to watch that happen. Basically, we're getting further down into the earth. Right now, they're about 6,000 feet deep. That's not a real deep well, to be honest. It's we're going to go to a total depth of 9,055 feet. This particular well is 2/3 of the way drilled. There's a whole process that happens after that. We're going to talk about that with the guys, but these guys out here are going to do the hard work. These are the rig hands. You might have heard them called roughnecks before, but right now they're pulling out that pipe. So JD's running that mechanism, and these guys are getting ready to reset the pipe, and you're going to watch them do some pretty dangerous but super important and hard work. Basically, they're doing kind of a wiper trip, we call it right now. They're kind of wiping stuff clean, getting it real smoothed out. They can put a new piece of pipe in there, and you're going to watch them. They thread the pipe. It's really cool how they do this, because basically you got to put a big bit. You got to put a big bit on the end of the drill pipe itself, and that's way down, 6,000 feet down. But you got to add sections of pipe, and these sections of pipe are about, I think, 30, 40 feet long. You see them right there. And look down there. Down there's where they store the pipe, and it comes up this slide up here. And they're going to keep doing this wiper here. Look at the size of that. This isn't even a big rig, folks. This is a fairly common rig. But it's an amazing piece of machinery. But guys, this is how it happens on the back end. This is the work that gets done. This is the work that's required to actually go down, drill into where the hydrocarbons sit. Let's get on that. Here comes the fun part. Let's just watch this. Got to be a young man to do that. So they're getting ready to thread. If you can see, the thread is coming out there. You see all that mud? They're getting ready to add pipe to that. And the way they do it is through basically threading. They screw in a new piece of 50-foot pipe. Dirty work, folks. That's where all the cuttings are coming up through and going out into eventually they get into the pit behind there. I'm not really dressed for mud, but hey, that's really living when you're getting muddy like that. Dangerous job too. That's why they're wearing hard hats and gloves. These guys are well trained. You see that pipe's coming up? Getting ready to thread the new pipe. See it turned right there? They just turned it. That's just like a giant wrench, guys. They're just trying to tighten it up, make sure that the threading is secure. So when they start turning the bit the opposite way, that you're going to get a good seal and you're going to get a good, solid drilling connection, basically. I'm so excited I can hardly talk. I love this stuff. Now they're going back in. You can see all that pipe being drilled back in. What you're going to see is now the actual hole in the ground is way below us. It's like 2 stories, 3 stories below us. They're keeping their work area clean. So when they come back out there, things aren't going to be a mess. Now you're going to see this thing start turning again. Now we're drilling again. Boom. That's it. They do this periodically. As that it goes to somewhere around, they'll do this maybe 2-3 times an hour. This whole change out of the pipe. That's what JD's over here doing. He's making sure he's getting everything locked in. And always work going on. Got a whole bunch of stuff we won't even get to cover going on with the mud over there. See if I can get down that way with Blaine later. But anyway, back to the doghouse. I still don't know why they call it a doghouse, but this is where you got all your lockers. Nobody actually lives in the lockers anymore. But JD, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. So JD's going to keep working on it. We're going to go talk to some of the rest of the team and learn a little bit more about how this all works. And we're going to learn about, sorry about the noise. We're going to learn about really not just how it works, but how you produce income out of this. How do you make this a profitable project? So, we'll go away from the noise. I do want to get Blaine, my COO, back up here at some point. Maybe we can go over the mud tanks later and have a little bit of conversation. I don't know if we'll have time, but I'm going to introduce you to some of the team right now. So, guys, we just came back from the rig floor.
Blaine Urie, President, COO, PetroVybe.
Blaine Urie.
Clayton Riddle, CFO.
Clayton, CFO.
Sergio Salazar, Controller.
Sergio, the controller. All right, guys, we're going to get back to these guys in a little bit. This guy's the one that kind of brings it all together. This guy makes all the numbers work. And let me tell you, that's some real genius across the board. That's our tax expert right here, which is going to matter to people who want to invest. But hopefully you're here to just learn in the first place. Talk about all that stuff later. Another view of the rig. You can see the whole platform out here. Now, we have landowners that allow us to do this. We don't own this land. We actually lease it. And we lease it because they own it. They usually own the mineral rights as well. So, man, we love that big tree out there. I have a great picture of that tree. I have to tell a story maybe another time. But anyway, we put this whole, this is basically a bunch of brush like you see back there. We cleared all this out, made room for a work area, and then this will all be cleaned up, and none of this will be here. You'll have just a wellhead and a few tanks on the side, and then the ecosystem will all grow back. So it's really actually eco-friendly when you look at it in that way, and we're able to still harvest the minerals in a safe and ecologically friendly way. Not everybody will agree with that, but you don't have to be here and agree with that. You can do something else with your life. So anyway, strong opinions, I'll tell you that. But we're going to switch now to really zoom out. We're going to talk to, we're going to talk to our friends, Mike and Mike. This is a Mike and Mike show. Mike Looney, almost 50 years as a geophysicist in geology. He tells me a geophysicist is a geologist who likes math.
Yes,
Is that right?
he is.
So anyway, these guys have, the gray hair just means lots of experience. So keep that in mind. But we're actually going to talk a little bit about how a project like this, because this is one well, gang. This is one well of 50 in this particular project. So when you think about big companies, and they have literally dozens or even hundreds of these kinds of things going on all the time, every day. PetroVybe is emerging, and this is the first well of our 50 well project. And so in order to get a project like that put together, you have to have vision, and you have to do some serious work on the discovery side. It takes a lot of investment of time and effort, a lot of capital, to be honest. And this particular project already has $20 million of science work done. And so I'm going to come back to Mike and Mike here in a second, but that's, getting this vision together is huge. And so you need somebody who has that broad vision, and then you need somebody who can bring it together in the precision way. And that's why Mike and Mike, I mean, they're just a great partnership. It's crazy. They've been in the business almost the same amount of time, and they're just a great compliment. I can't speak highly enough of them, and not only that, but their track record is unmatched, candidly. And so I'm going to turn it over to them, and I'll let them kind of tell you how the vision was born from Mike Looney, and then we'll get into how to actually pick locations and be more precise in actually where to drill. And that's what this little segment's about. So Mike and Mike, guys, take it away.
Okay. Thanks for being with us today. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of how we got here. This is a project that was developed originally by a partner of myself about 20 years ago. So working through this area, and we were looking at 2D seismic data. On that 2D seismic data, we saw a bunch of FLTs. FLT stands for funny looking things. Okay. So we found these funny looking things, and we said, let's start working on this, because in oil and gas, funny looking things are where you find oil and gas. So that's where we started. So I'm going to pull up one slide here. And I'm using my fancy pointer here, since we forgot a pointer. So this is my Texas pointer. So this is what I call the geological depositional model for the Wilcox. So we're chasing the Wilcox formation, about 55 to 60 million years old. We're located in Lavaca County, about halfway between Houston and San Antonio. And so if you were standing here 60 million years ago and looking out this way, you'd be standing and looking at the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, we're about 300 elevation above the Gulf of Mexico. So what happened 55, 60 million years ago, there were huge changes in sea level. And when the huge changes in sea level occurred, the rivers that were dumping into the Gulf of Mexico entrenched themselves into a newly exposed shelf and cut huge canyons. And these huge canyons are what we're chasing out here. So what happened with these canyons, when you have a super rainfall event, you get movement of sediment that's carried out here and deposited. They could be debris flows, they could be turbidite flows, they could be slumps, they could be mass wasting. So Peter always talks about the chocolate chips. Okay, so look at this display here. So it shows these areas in yellow. Those are deposits. That's where the chocolate chip's going to occur.
So what he's referring to, just for a moment, this is like a chocolate chip cookie, a giant cookie. So you see the whole area as a cookie. And the reason we do that is just to keep it straight for me. But the idea behind it is Mike went out a decade or so ago and took pictures. He did what we call 3D seismic. And he'll talk a little bit more about that. But he basically got a big picture of a giant chocolate chip cookie. And what he's looking for are the chips. And so what he's going to talk about here in these yellow areas are the actual chips themselves. And so the funny looking things that he's talking about are in fact the chocolate chips. And that's where the hydrocarbons are. So let's let him talk a little bit more about that.
So what happened is we saw all this on 2D data. This is very complex geometrically. So in order to properly identify, properly find the traps out here, and those chocolate chips that have oil and gas in them, we had to shoot a 3D seismic survey. We shot an 85 square mile 3D seismic survey. This is a coherency slice from the data set. Mike is going to talk more about the geophysics here in just a minute. So what's really neat on here, what you see is over here in 3D, what we're seeing is this huge canyon. This light colored area here is like standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, because this is like 3,000 feet. Okay, and
From the top to the
from the top to the bottom. And what we see in here are some of these chocolate chips. Here's a chocolate chip right here, which I'm convinced has a lot of hydrocarbons. This is a well that's going to be drilled amongst our probably top 5 wells. There's another one over here. There's a producing field that's actually right here. And there's more chocolate chips that lay up along the canyon here of what's called the Hallisville or Lavaca Canyon. So this gives you an idea of the scale. this is not just looking for that 200-acre chocolate chip. I'm looking for 50 chocolate chips that exist within this 85 sperm area.
So how many wells do you think we can get out of that, out of 50 chocolate chips?
I think we get upwards of 100 wells.
100 wells, folks. That's where this project could eventually head. Right now, we're targeting 50 or half of that. Part of our risk mitigation efforts. But anyway,
So let's talk about the prospect itself. Let's talk about this guy, this well we're drilling right here. Okay, and this is actually a prospect called Deacon Jim. Okay,
Deacon Jim.
so what you're looking at here, this is a log cross section. Okay, each one of these represents a well log. Okay,
So this is a well. This is a well.
right.
This is a well.
Operator is Phoenix.
Okay.
Right at the top. So between this Ohio stock and the Mosbacher Stephen, I expect to find a chocolate chip loaded with oil and gas. And this is our well we're drilling right now on this.
So this is our well.
This is our well, the
Okay.
Jim well that we're drilling. So up dip from this, or structurally up dip from this Ohio stock, we're going to catch these sands trapped against this shale sequence which creates the trap. So the hydrocarbons cannot move through that, and they stop here and start loading up these sands. And that's what we're chasing. That's the chocolate chip we're chasing. So
Nice.
so the hydrocarbons are generated in these shales and forced into the sand, and over time migrate up to the top.
And you could see that in this already producing well. It's already done that in a similar way.
No, it's not a producing well.
Okay.
This is the well that basically has the sands with no hydrocarbons.
Okay.
This is an analogous to another prospect that we have where we see these sands down dip. They were drilled by Exxon, up dip drilled by City Service. They found a huge field.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, Mike, the other half, Mike can start it here with this.
But they're so
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
Good. No, that's good. That's good.
So this is basically a map. We're looking at the surface, ground surface. So Mike can talk about this, right? This is the outline of the survey. So Mike, tell them what's on there.
Okay, so this is the outline of the 3D seismic survey, 85 square miles.
The chocolate chip cookie.
Yellow are leases that PetroVybe currently holds.
On chocolate chips.
The well that we're drilling is located right here,
Where's that? Say that again.
right here.
Okay. Where's Lavaca County, guys?
This is law.
Okay, but where is Lavaca County in Texas?
Between
Like,
San Antonio
And Houston,
and Houston.
about halfway
Okay.
between.
all right, very good.
100 miles outside of Houston.
This is Highway 77. Interstate 10 just sits just north of this
So
map.
south of I-10,
Schulenburg,
Schulenburg,
Hallettsville.
Hallettsville, right between Schulenburg and Hallettsville. I know you mappers are gonna get on your map and check that out, but you'll know where we are right now. So cool. All right, keep going.
Okay, so this map shows the outline of the 3D. It shows a trace. Because we have 3D data, we can construct traces, cross sections in any orientation we choose. So I've connected a series of wells that are critical to our prospect development.
It's called,
Okay.
it's called
And
an
I'll show you-
arbitrary line. It's an arbitrary line.
But it's arbitrary because it has what? Common characteristics?
Because it's oriented any way you
Any
choose.
way you choose.
I
Okay.
want to connect any wells that are relevant to any of my prospects.
Okay.
Okay, and show what
But they
this
have
looks
to,
like.
but they have to fit a certain criteria, right?
Well, in this case, yeah.
Yes.
So for example, this is a prospect on the west end of the profile, the left side of the profile that I'm going to show. It's called Curly Bill, okay? The two locations picked, we leased here, so we had to put the location inside the lease legally, okay? And these two wells are part of a field that is exactly the same type of accumulation
That's
as
it.
what we expect at Curly Bill. The analog, the lookalike, the fingerprint, whatever you want to
Seen
call
it
it.
before, we want another one.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and
Seen
this
it
is a
before.
very nice little field here. For 4 wells, has produced almost 20 BCF of gas and 1 million barrels of oil. Wow. From 4 wells.
Okay, and the size of this bubble, the circles on the map reflects the production. So these wells at about 9,500 feet have produced essentially the dollar equivalents of 18,000 foot wells that are drilled to a much deeper objective just south of our 3D survey. Okay. So we're going to show you this profile through here.
So that's an aerial view. This is a side view.
It's a vertical flight.
Okay.
This is a seismic cross section. Some geological cross section.
All right.
Yeah,
Geology
let me-
101. Yep.
Yeah, so let me back up.
Okay.
Seismic 101, the seismic is sound energy put into the earth with listening devices on the surface. And in 3D surveys, there are multiple recording listening devices placed in a regular geometry on the surface of the earth. Okay. So one source is fired. It might be dynamite. In this case, it's dynamite. It might be a vibrating truck. Okay. Whatever. Sonic energy is shot into the earth and the echoes are recorded. And the echoes are recorded at the surface. Those are these events that you see on the seismic data, blue and red. Okay. That's energy coming back. Okay. And the top profile is the original processing. And with the software that I have and use, I'm able to test ideas, try to enhance the data. The profile below is the exact same profile, but you'll notice how much sharper the definition is on
So
it.
these are the same areas.
Same exact section.
Just a better
different,
picture.
yes.
This is a different software than this.
Okay.
Okay, and so I prefer to work with this because this higher frequency data emphasizes discontinuities, lateral changes, which are critical to this play.
Yeah.
One thing that you'll notice, the big picture, okay, geologically, this event down here is the Edwards, okay, and the depth is
The Edwards is a,
Cretaceous line.
older,
it's a formation. It's a layer of the earth.
Still 80 million years old.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
and you'll notice that it's very well behaved. And nothing out of the ordinary
Flat.
going on.
Flat.
But even here, you'll notice, I'm trying to point this out. This is Austin Chalk, Eagleford, another formation, and Edwards. Notice how this changes here. Okay, the Eagleford is disappearing down here. That may be critical to deeper plays in the area, but that's a distraction.
So
The
it's
key
still
point,
flat here and flat up there.
and you look up here, pretty flat and pretty flat. Okay, but look at what's going on in here. This is dynamic geology. These are the canyons that Mike showed earlier, and they're manifested very clearly on the seismic.
Looks like a chocolate chip underground.
Exactly.
Exactly. And you got production right there from a field right next door. That's a lookalike to this.
That's why it says prospect and pay.
Right,
Okay.
right. We also have,
These are, by the way, sorry guys, these are wells.
Well lost.
See these
Well,
lines?
yeah.
Those are actual
They're
well logs.
superimposed on this.
and the seismic data I mentioned is recorded in time. With the software I have, I've converted that to depth. So you see depth,
So that's
On the side.
8,000 feet right here.
and so
It's a lot of size. It just means you have different standards you have to work through as you have, the earth limits your ability to see things. So you have to
Exactly.
find ways to get past it.
yeah, well, and actually that's a good way to put it. Because before we saw this, we saw things, but not with perfect, I shouldn't say perfect, that's the wrong word, with less clarity. Okay.
Right.
As we try to see into the earth by doing 3D, we see with more and increasing clarity each step of the way.
And it's because we have more information,
More information.
more intellectual property in that data.
Good.
And with this software, we're integrating the geologic data, the well logs. The yellow are sands, the grays and greens are shales. If you look at these logs in detail. And the wells where they were completed, they're actually little gray areas there, that's where the wells were perforated, okay? These wells were productive. Hey, the current well that we're drilling, think about that map. We've come all the way around the loop, through the canyon, and we're over here. We're drilling right here, and we are drilling, targeting the sands up dip of that well. This is reversed from Mike's earlier cross section, okay? If you that's zoomed in, and a mirror image just to further confuse people.
This is zoomed in on this.
Right,
That
right.
well right there sits right over.
It's that well right there.
Okay.
Okay. And that's what we're targeting,
It's flipped.
right here.
It's right there.
Okay.
Just flipped around.
Good. Okay.
All right, and all this is manifested, these interpretations that are made on geology are supported by the seismic data.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, Mike and Mike?
what we're gonna do. Ready to log this ready to log tank.
What's your what do you think what do you think our chances are on this particular well?
Very good.
Very good. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit more about that with so Mr. Project Builder Vision Discovery over here, Mr. Precision and Mr. Pragmatist.
Mr. Keep me in line.
Mr. Keep him in line.
Yeah.
That's why he's here. He has a very important job, but you don't do it without this guy.
On this stuff, I'm optimistic.
That's right. And
I need the guy that tries to tear my prospects apart. That's it.
that's right. You need a treasure hunter and you need a treasure raider. Yes, you need both. And so that's Mike and Mike, guys. Okay, we're gonna move on. Thanks, guys. We're gonna move on real quick to engineering. So I've got man, those guys are awesome. I love the science, even though I'm not a scientist. I love giving I love that time. So, but let's move on to Blaine Urie, our COO, and he's going to talk about basically how this all gets done. So those guys are super important in having a project like this even exist. You got to have discovery, but he's actually going to pull that all together. So let's let Blaine. I'm going to introduce Blaine here. I'm going to introduce him. I already did, but Blaine, why don't you give us your setup on how the engineering works.
Cows are fascinating.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they weren't there earlier. We've been here for a while. There's 50 head of cattle right there just looking at us. I can't really zoom in, but anyway, that's pretty funny. Sorry, Blaine, you're losing to the cows.
Yeah.
The scientists are leading us off to the we're gonna hand off the stick. Okay, let's go. Sorry.
All right.
Let's do it.
So Blaine Urie, COO of PetroVybe, petroleum engineer, 30 years in the industry. So want to go a little bit about how we kind of take what the scientists do and locate the oil and gas, and how we determine how much oil and gas is there, and how we, determine if it's economic, financially viable, how we get it out of the ground and put it in the tanks and in the pipeline. So initially we start, what are our best practices? Ultimately, we're trying to get to our mowing.
What's a mowing, Blaine?
That's a multiple on our invested capital.
Multiple on invested capital.
Very, very important to all of us. That is ultimately what we're trying to achieve. So how do we do that? How do we do that specifically in oil and gas? And how does PetroVybe do that? And this all comes back to stewardship, which is a cornerstone of our company. So you'll see that time and time again. We want to be good stewards of our investors' capital. So,
and can I interject on
You
that?
can.
So listen, gang, this is real important. Stewardship. I'm a disciple of Jesus. Wear it on my sleeve. It informs who I am. It informs all of who we are, and the team really is actually. And so I bring it up because everybody has a value system that they aspire to work towards or to do their work based on. And for us, it's the only perfect person that ever lived on this earth, and he's my Savior and Lord, and he informs my values. And what's interesting about this and how it ties into all this is he actually talked about stewardship in the parable of the talents and did that in Matthew 25 is where it's recorded. It's a pretty interesting story, but he uses fiscal stewardship as a model for basically how to care for somebody else's faith growth and so forth. But he's also actually talking about it from a practical standpoint. So it's a couple of applications there. First and foremost about how you're going to steward your soul, and that's really giving it over to him. But he uses fiscal stewardship as the basis for that and the principles that are within. It's a story. It's a great parable. Encourage you to read it in Matthew 25. But that's what's informing our value system, and that's what Blaine's how's that translate into this stuff, And so he's going to talk about what that really looks like at a practical level. So let's flip back to you, Blaine. Talk to us.
thank you, Peter. So that gets to two overarching concepts, buy right, scale right, which is probably in most businesses. So how is that applicable to PetroVybe and oil and gas in our project here? You start out with the discovery. You've already seen that from our two scientists, Mike and Mike, discovery and narrowing down, the oil and gas. Where is it at? Underwriting. That is all of the work that goes into, which I'm going to show you on the next poster here,
how much oil and gas is here? How much does it cost to get out of the ground? What are the operating costs? How can we scale this? How many projects are there? So that is all the background work that goes to see if this is a viable project. We don't move forward until we determine if the project is viable financially and scientifically. 3 is planned. So that's, you're going to see shortly, our CFO is going to show you our financial model. He puts together the full development plan. This is the 50 well development project.
What's the key? What's the key in the plan? Like what makes this?
The key in the plan is the reinvestment program. It's taking your early free cash flow, pouring it back into the ground so you can scale the company and grow, and you do not dilute your investments. That really, along with some debt, ultimately drives your MOIC. So that's what gives everybody a 4x plus MOIC on this project.
4x MOIC. Wow. Over a 5-year period?
Over a 5-year period before asset sale. So
before sale, that's huge, guys.
Pure cash flow. So,
but you got to be patient. Anyway,
you got to have patience. This is a wealth building project, so that's why it's a 5 to 7 year project. Once all of that's determined, you like the plan, the numbers look good, the financials look good, then you go out and start acquiring leases. We have 6 leases taken. Those are the chocolate chips. They will support approximately 10 drill locations, and 10 of the 50 locations are already identified and basically drill ready at this point. That takes us into the scale rights, which is the onboarding. That is not just our technical team, but that is the
I'll move.
Okay. That is our partners. So that is Lawson, who has the drilling rig out here that you're seeing in the background a second ago, that Peter was showing you. All of our vendors, partners to make this happen. Optimize. That is continuous throughout this process. We're always trying to do it better, more efficient, cheaper, lower risk, improve what we're doing. So optimization is a continual process. We ultimately get to drilling, which you're seeing here. PetroVybe is drilling its first well, the Bernice Mobley #1. Scale, 50 well project. You don't want to drill 1 well or 3 or 5. You want to scale this where you can get that 4 times MOIC, 4 times return on your investment, and then repeats. We want to do this again and again. So that is the MOIC formula and best practices for PetroVybe. All right, now, how do we determine how much oil and gas a well is going to make? And when I say gas, I mean natural gas, not gasoline, just so there's no issues there. So you've already seen this, how we determine where the prospect is from the geology and from the 3D seismic. 2, how do we know how big the tank is? What is the aerial extent? That comes from Mike Samatides and Mike Looney on the 3D seismic. In this case, this is the Bernice Mobley trap. There is a 160-acre trap here. We say sand, that means sandstone. That is the reservoir we're going to produce the oil and gas out of. So we know the size of the tank, 160 acres. You've seen this on the previous presentation. What is the thickness of the tank, the reservoir, the rock that's going to store the oil and gas?
Tank being the chip, right?
The tank being the chip. Over 100 foot of sand here. The tank is over 100 foot thick.
That's a big. That's a lot of chocolate.
That's a lot. That's why we're drilling this prospect, because it's a big one. 160 acres, over 100 feet thick. People think that oil and gas is in pools in the ground. Some people do, but it is not. It is actually within the micropores of the sandstone. Think of the reservoir as a sponge that has microscopic pores. You can see a 1 millimeter scale here. The blue are the pore spaces. Those are the holes in the rock that contain the oil and gas. So obviously it's hard to see with the naked eye. But in this particular case, 20% of that rock is pore space, contains oil and gas. So we take all of these calculations, run our volumetrics, and we determine how much oil and gas a well will produce. In this case, we've determined about a little bit better than 3 BCF, 3 billion cubic feet of gas, and 250-ish thousand barrels of oil. The natural gas is so high of BTU content, it has so much liquids in it. We will process the gas with our gas processing partner and get another about 250,000 barrels of natural gas liquids. So 3 revenue streams, risk mitigator. This is all based on only 60 acres of drainage and 60 feet of net pay.
We think there's probably double that out here. The economics are run on very conservative numbers. You'll see that time and time again in all of our estimates. We are conservative. We want to underpromise and overdeliver. You want to see a picture of what the rock looks like? I'll hold it so you can actually
Put it
read the
against your
numbers.
shirt.
There is the rock. So that is a Wilcox core. That is what your oil and gas will be produced out of.
Wow. It's like rock.
It looks like a piece of concrete or a brick.
Sure does.
That is actually great rock. 20% of that rock is actually pore space. In our case, it'll be full of oil and natural gas.
Wow, that is amazing. All right. Awesome.
So, and then obviously, once we do the economics, we get to the operational piece of the engineering, which you guys have seen plenty with the drilling rig. And
We have it, but we may want to go back and look at some of it. If we have time at the end, we may want to look at some more. Yeah. There's some stuff that we could probably, oh, okay, here we go. So back to our economic dudes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Clayton, CFO. Let's just get a view, man. That's such a good view. Okay.
All right. So y'all heard about how we find the oil and gas and how we get the oil and gas out of the ground. This is how we turn the oil and gas into profits. So I'm going to walk you through everything that goes into our financial performance. And we'll start with the type curve forecast. So what we have here is a graph with production rate on the y-axis in thousands of cubic feet per day. And then x-axis is time in months. And each one of these squiggly lines, the colorful squiggly lines, represents production from a well. And what these wells are is they're the comps. So like if you are in real estate and you're looking to buy a house, let's say you want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, you're going to pull the comps, and that's also going to be your 3-bedroom and 2-bath houses, so you can see what the price per square foot is. So this
sorry, if you guys remember those lines we saw on the geologists over there, they were Mike and Mike, the lines that we saw, from the side view, that's what these squiggly lines, this is the production that they rendered. Hopefully that helps. Connect the dots between the geology. He reads the geology based on what the production is. So he basically brings those economics together. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so what we have here in the solid black line is the average of all the comps of all the wells. And the red line is our forecast. So as you can see, we're about 20% below forecast. Again, conservatism is built into our model. It's built into everything we do. We want to underpromise and overdeliver. So that's the first step. That's the production forecast. The next step is how much is it going to cost us? So let's say we're building a new 3-bed, 2-bath house, right? So what's the cost? Well, how are we going to find that out? We're going to go get quotes, actual bids. So these are actual bids that we've gotten to give us an estimate of the drilling, completion, and facilities costs. So we have 3 components to constructing a well. And that's drilling, completion, and facilities. And we have the bids and the detail here. As Blaine mentioned, he's got decades of operational experience. That's how he has these connections to these partners that do the services for us. And he knows what to expect in terms of our bids and getting those quotes for us. So the drilling component, it's about $1.5 million, a $3 million cost. The completion component is about 500,000 of that. And the facilities is another 500,000. Add in some contingencies, and we're up to about $3 million in terms of our total well cost.
Because we also have some like pre-stuff, geology, land, that kind of stuff.
Some geology, some land also built in. We make sure we capture everything in these costs.
And that's pre-drilling. So that kind of goes over here if we had that. But we kind of segment that out for viewing. So, but it's all part of the cost.
Yep. And then we have our OPEX estimate. So what are our operating expenses? That's what OPEX stands for. And that's going to tell us how much it costs to maintain and operate our well. So to produce the oil and gas from the well, once we drill it, complete it, and get it producing to facilities and the sales line. And so These costs are direct operating costs from an offset operator in our area operating similar wells. So again, back to the comps. This is how we operate. These are the costs from the offset operator. We use those costs so we have high confidence in what it actually costs to operate the well. The main costs are overhead. So your pumpers, the guys who are coming out here every day, checking on the well, making sure it's producing, it's flowing to the sales line. Utilities, so your electricity, your chemicals. So we pump chemicals down the well. That's to keep our pipe from scaling up. We don't want any blockage restricting our flow of oil and gas. And then we have our treating costs. So we have some contaminants in our gas, which is normal. You got to treat those. So it's pure methane.
But we don't want any cholesterol buildup in our arteries.
No, exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we've got compression. So that's to compress the gas to get it into the sales line. And then saltwater disposal is the final key cost that we have. And that's the water that we produce with these chemicals, or sorry, with this oil and gas production that we need to dispose of. So that's our CapEx estimate. All right, just walk you through our OpEx estimate. We got our production. So then we put all that together into the single well cash flow. So we've got production here, prices here, calculate those two, we get the total revenue, and then we've got production taxes, our net investment, which is our CapEx right there, and then well costs and other costs, that's our operating costs. And then that spits out an annual cash flow.
What's a key metric against time? Can you tell us that? Like time to pay?
Yeah, so a key metric against time is how long it takes us to recoup the cash flow from investment. So our payout time. And as you can see here, we turn profitable in year 2. So that means we've paid back our investment in 1 year, and then we start making cash flow in year 2.
How good is that relative to?
It's really good. Generally, it takes about 2 years for our wells because it's a lower development cost. The CapEx is relatively low for the industry. We're able to pay them out in about a year, a little over a year. So that's a key metric there. So the production forecast flows into our financial pro forma, and that's what you see here in this box. That's our production forecast. Up here is our pricing. So our 5-year average price is $72.50. Right now, as of this morning, oil prices were trading at $78 a barrel. So again, we're conservative. What we've used to forecast is the NYMEX strip price, which is what the market index is based off market economics. And so there's no funny business, no squirreliness with how we're forecasting. We're using what the market says it is. After production, we have our net revenue, expenses. Then we get down to our capital expenditures, and then ultimately our cash available for distributions, and then our partner dividend distribution.
It's a little blurry, but what are my returns in years 2 through 5?
They are 17,
12.
12.
12. I'll read it. 79, 119, and 213%. What's that give us on the MOIC there?
It gives us a 4.2x MOIC. So 423% on your initial investment.
Yeah, gross. So yeah, I mean, look, you gotta, what's the key to reinvestment? I would say, like, I mean, we know reinvestment's the key, but what's the function within reinvestment?
So yeah, the key there is that we're able to take 25 million of equity, 25 million of debt, and drill the initial 14 wells, $3 million a well approximately, plus some contingency. That gets us to about $50 million. And we reinvest the profits from those wells. So we turn profitable in year 2. We start reinvesting that. So from that initial investment of $25 million, we're able to drill 14 wells
And then for each one of those wells, we're able to drill 3 subsequent wells because of the reinvestment and get us up to a total of 50 wells because profits are weightless.
That's so true. And just as a note, gang, that's a principle from Warren Buffett. It's ooh, I got a friend there. Thanks, Sergio. So we got Warren Buffett. He attributes his wealth building, one of the top 3 richest guys in the world. He attributes his wealth building to 3 things, and one of those 3 things, and I would argue his favorite, is compounding. And that's what this is. We have built-in compounding into the economic model. It mitigates risk and it rewards you for doing that, which is very uncommon in most businesses, but especially in the oil and gas business. You think about it, these are fundamentals from Amazon and Microsoft and other companies that spent, a decade not distributing profits, but rather reinvesting back in the business. And this is how companies really grow at scale. They have to be patient. Wealth building isn't something that happens overnight. It's something that takes time. And that's fundamental to this economic. That's why there's no distributions for the first 7, 8 quarters. Forecast doesn't have you until the 8th quarter to get a distribution as an investor. And we've already got 42 people who believe in that model because they're interested in the wealth building. So that's a really important thing for us as we're investors as well. And we want to make sure that we're doing the right stewardship thing. And that's what it takes. It takes time. And seems like that's something that people feel short on these days. But that's when you need to really be thinking about it, is do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. And that's how you're going to build wealth. So let's switch over. Are we ready for Sergio?
Yeah, we're ready.
Sergio's got some good news on another value component.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about taxes, specifically drilling costs. So one great benefit of being an oil and gas investor is you can write off 100% of IDCs, which is intangible drilling costs. That's an IRS incentivizes people to invest in oil and gas. Usually IDCs are about 50 to 80% of total CapEx. So here at PetroVybe, we target about an 80% deduction on your first year investment. So 2023, we had 80%. 2024, we're at around 81% deduction. So that will help offset W-2 income, 1099 income, passive income, investment income, any income that you have that can help offset for future periods, as well as help on your return on investment in future years.
How is that different than real estate, Sergio?
It's similar. Real estate is a little different tax code, a little different methodology. I would compare it to an R&D expense that you get for manufacturing, IT investments, some technology investments. So it's very similar to an R&D credit if any of you guys invest in technology or manufacturing. Real estate, there's a lot of loopholes and whatnot, but usually it's 1 or 2 years. And
it's passive too, right? I mean, real estate, you got a passive investment. Here, when you invest in oil and gas, you can actually get, and that's not unique to PetroVybe. Now, what is unique is our ability to actually execute on that. Sergio's already delivered a track record of that. 2023, right at the end, we had a few investors early, and they all achieved an 80% tax deduction through the IDC. So we're, as Sergio pointed out, we're doing that again this year. But that's the main difference is passive versus active income, and that's what we're able to do in really any oil and gas. I mean, just as general education. Here's one thing to make sure of. That's a great benefit, but it is not a reason to invest. It's another reason to invest. You want to make sure that you believe in the team, you believe in their track record, not their experience. Experience, everyone has experience. Anybody can say they've worked for, well, anybody who has 30 years, and there's a lot of people that do. It's not about how many years of experience you have. It's about what did those years render from a performance. Hey, guys, thanks so much. Awesome job. Sergio, well done. Clayton. But yeah, it's about your execution, your ability to deliver on that. So we're gonna walk back down to the rig. It's gonna get loud, but we're gonna check out a few more things on the rig because there's some excitement there. But hopefully you guys can see how all the pieces come together. In the end, back to the team conversation. You got to believe in the team, not just because you like them or you don't like them. It's do you believe that they can deliver again on their track record? Specifically, experience is only useful for your benefit as an investor if
they have proved to be able to actually deliver performance. That's one of the things. I'm going to stop here for a second. Like Blaine, Blaine's been in the business 30 years. How many colleagues? Like everybody you know has been in the business 30 years. For the most part, yeah. Yeah, but what matters is Blaine's actually drilled over 400 wells and over 50 in this area in this formation. And so he's also scaled the project from 0 wells to over 8,000 wells as the technical lead. So he put the team together. He evaluated the assets prior to acquisition and all that. My point being is this project is relatively small for his ability to scale, which he's already proven he could do as a leader. And that's really important to me. One of the main reasons that I partnered with him is because of that. And then you go back to those guys over there, Mike and Mike, right there. I mean, these guys aren't just gray hairs. They have tons of experience, apparently not putting poster board into bags very well. But anyway, they've got almost 50 years each. But what Blaine and I value in those guys, although we like them, it's the fact that they have a 75% success rate in selecting profitable locations to drill. So when we look at all that work they did, 3 out of 4 times they get it right. That's almost double the industry standard. So they're terrific at what they do, and that's over a 5-decade career. So that's why we love them. To be honest, this is a meritocracy, people. You got to earn it, and being nice and having experience gets you in the door, but it doesn't get you the job, and it doesn't keep the job. That's getting performance done. And so putting all these people together, you know, Clayton and Sergio, great experience, but the reason they're on the team is because they know how to exploit EBITDA. They know how to look at putting together a pro forma in a way that's going to help us deliver. So these are all important things about understanding the team, and if you want to be a partner with that. And ultimately, those are important decisions, whether you're thinking about investing in oil and gas or not. If you're investing in anything, you're making choices with your capital, which we believe is God's capital. You're stewarding that money in 100 years. Only people are going to care is your legacy people, and that's going to be 3 generations removed. So you to make good, wise decisions because God's watching and your immediate family's watching, and that's really advice for anytime you're doing anything. You got to know the people, and you got to really test their merits and their performance. So I think to close out, what we want to do is go and Blaine, I'm going to have you kind of explain some of the. Let's get up on the wrap.
Yeah, let's go show the drilling in action up here.
Okay, we got a pretty good view of the. We got a pipe change out. So slinging pipe. It's going to get a little loud. I'm starting to lose my voice, but hang in there with us. We're going to go up that side. Okay. Where do you want to go first? We're going to go back up to the doghouse. One other thing I wanted to point out, good stewardship is getting third-party review. We've had third-party engineering done. We've had people who aren't invested and can't invest in this project actually review all the science we just talked about. And essentially the best way to sum it up is we're all in agreement. It's very unusual. It's very unusual for a third-party engineering firm to have that much alignment on their own independent perspective, which just shows you the merits of the team. And so I think that was a real important component that I wanted to make sure we covered before we finish. But let's wrap up with Blaine giving us some insights to some of the stuff we talked about, but I think he's a little better than I was for those that weren't on early.
Yeah, so let's go first look at the drilling monitor. Let's see what that's correct. So we are drilling ahead at 6,010 feet, almost 6,009.5. So see there it's 5. Weight on bid, about 5,000 pounds, making about 18 feet an hour.
So we're drilling 18 feet an hour.
We are drilling 18 feet an hour.
Is that good?
It's a little bit slow, but it's probably erratic right now as we go into sand and shale, so the drilling's bouncing around a little bit, but it'll pick up here in a little bit. Come see the hook load there. When you look at that Kelly out there on the rig floor, that traveling block is up in the air, and the pipe, 116,000 pounds. A lot of weight hanging there in the air above the rig.
116,000 pounds.
Yep.
How many cars is that?
We've got 6,000 feet divided by 30, so whatever that is.
Okay. Awesome.
So drilling ahead, you've got the Kelly bushing there spinning. You've got the rig floor. The rig floor is actually turning. The Kelly bushing has a spline that sticks down into it, rotates the pipe. That's your Kelly. That spline shaft there. That's what allows the Kelly bushing to turn the drill pipe. So we have 6,000 foot of drill pipe in the ground below that. Drill collars and a bit on bottom, and drilling ahead right now, circulating the mud down and out the drill bit to pull the pit, circulate cuttings to surface. There's a pit behind us over there where all the cuttings are going into. The mud loggers are taking samples of those cuttings every few feet to see what we're actually drilling through. And we're making holes a couple days away from getting to our pay zone.
Awesome. So let's go in here and talk. Let's talk about mud. We're just about up against our time, but I do want to cover mud. Maybe we go talk to the mud loggers. They're in the. You want to do that or not?
Sure. We go out to the mud pit and just walk down the pit.
Yeah.
Go see the mud.
Yeah. I want you to cover how we actually hang with us, gang. One last time. Hurrah here. Want to make sure you guys understand how we see the hydrocarbons, how we know they're there. It's kind of cool. So we'll get around the noise here. We're going to learn basically how the mud loggers find out if we have or where we have oil. They're not ready for it because the science says we're not there yet, but in a couple thousand feet, they'll start paying more attention. Okay, here we go. To get a switch here. Whoa, look at that. That's some serious mud circulation. That's going in and out of the well. Just went around just so you have some. Hey, there's your mud. Hey. Shout out to all our viewers on Facebook and Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, or X, I guess. Appreciate everybody joining us today. We're going to close here in just a minute, but I want Blaine to walk us through what we're seeing here right below us on the mud logging.
So this is the mud that's coming right out of the ground. It's been circulated down the drill pipe, through the bit, back up the annulus, and it's coming out over these shakers here. So these are vibrating screens. The mud falls through the screens, is recirculated, repumped down the well at pretty high pressure. The cuttings are going into the reserve pit right here. So you can see the cuttings. You can see them going over the edge. We'll walk back. So there are your drill cuttings. That is what we're currently drilling. It looks relatively like a minor amount of shale, but remember, we're drilling 15 to 20 feet an hour, 8 3/4 inch hole. But that is the rock we are grinding up and drilling right now. That is what the mud loggers are taking samples of to look at it every few feet to start looking for oil and gas. We don't anticipate that until about 8,600 feet. But from about 5,000 feet down, we are starting to look for oil and gas just in case we happen to hit something that we don't expect.
Awesome. Okay, gang, we're about to wrap. I just want to say thanks to everybody that joined today. Man, I know it's loud. Appreciate all you being here with us, joining us on the platform. Man, that's so cool. I gotta get another view of that. That's keeping the mud going. I'll tell you what. It's a dirty job out here, man. Mike Rowe he probably did a show on oil rigs, but it's definitely a dirty job deal. So anyway, again, appreciate you all being here. If you're interested in being an investor with PetroVybe, becoming a partner, reach out to us at PetroVybe.com. You can hit us on social media. We're on all the platforms. So you can reach out to me directly. I can certainly get you engaged with the team, but lots of ways to do it. You got email info@PetroVybe.com. That's another way, but again, appreciate y'all being here. Hope you had a great learning experience, and man, God bless. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.